Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is your Bluegrass Briefing for Monday, Monday the 19th of February 2024. We do one of these every week. If you're new to the podcast, it's just a 10-minute roundup of what's going on in the last week and the next week in the world of bluegrass, some new releases, some news, some bits and pieces. And as always, what we do is we start with a little bit of a recap on what is going on the podcast. So, last week I put out an interview with Kyle Tuttle, who plays in Molly Tuttle's band Golden Highway. He's got a fantastic new record out called Labour of Lust, and I had a really cool chat with Kyle about that. Do go and listen to that. Really enjoyed that one. That was a lot of fun. Coming up this week, I have an interview with George Jackson, who's a great fiddler and has put out a project, the start of a project anyway, with Tristan Scroggins called the Old Timer 100. And they have recorded 100 old-time tunes in a day, and they're putting them out 20 at a time with video and notation and all sorts. It's like an educational project, but the recordings are great. They're really good. And I'm going to talk to them about sort of why they did that, why they did it in a day, how they did it, who plays on them. Really, really cool chat. I enjoyed that a lot. That is already recorded, and that's coming out this week. And then the week after, I've got an interview with Missy Raines about her album Highlander, which I love. Really, really cool chat with Missy, actually. That one is also already recorded. I've somehow found myself in a position where I've got things done in advance. What a way to start the year, hey? But yeah, some really cool conversations. Love the chat with Kyle. Great chat with George coming out this week, and a really good one with Missy the week after as well. So do sort of stay tuned for all of those. What else? I went to Transatlantic Sessions last week. I think I mentioned it in the podcast before I headed off to go and see it. I always love it. It's great to see a bunch of people who can play that well do stuff anyway, but it's always a joy to see the solo sort of guests they get up do stuff as well. And they bring members of the band out and put them front and centre. Daniel Kimbrough sang a song which was glorious. And it was amazing. I particularly enjoyed seeing Lindsay Lou, who I've not seen live before. But it's just such a feeling of joy on the stage between the performers. Like they've spent this intense 2 weeks together and they sort of don't want it to end. And it was glorious to watch. I had a great night there. But I also got to meet some other people. So I just want to say a quick hello to Chris Eaton, who listens to the podcast. He's a great dobro player. Very sort of key figure in the UK bluegrass scene, and he spotted me and we had a chat, which was great. And he also introduced me to somebody who he was with at the gig, who is Julie Jones, who is Frank Poindexter's daughter and Tony Rice's cousin. Now, I'd done 5 hours of tribute to Tony last year, and to be randomly introduced to his cousin at a gig was just, very odd. And really nice to meet Julie. So hi to Chris and to Julie. Really great to meet you both. I want to say thank you to Colin Burke, who took the time to get in touch through Instagram and just say thank you for some of the episodes. I know people listen to these because I see the download numbers, but I don't really meet anybody who listens to them that often. So it was great to see Chris at the gig. It was also really nice that Colin took the time and made the effort to get in touch and say hello. I enjoyed that. Thank you very much indeed. If you like these, you can always drop me an email, matt@bluegrassjamalong.com. There's a contact form on the website. You can find me on social. It's always good to hear from people. I really enjoyed it. And just one final thing. I want to say a big thank you to Matthew Montgomery, who is a long-time listener of this podcast, but is also helping me out a bit with the tech stuff on the website. And that is very much appreciated. So thank you to you, Matthew. But that is it. We're going to crack on now and do Church Street News, which is news and announcements. And there's a few bits in here. The first bit is the Steve Gulley Scholarship. And I got this info from Bluegrass Today, so I'll put a link to that article and you can go and read the whole thing. But essentially, the Bluegrass Music Endeavours Foundation is accepting applications for the Steve Gulley Memorial Scholarship, which awards $5,000 to a college student who best represents the future of bluegrass music. Foundation's a non-profit organisation funded by and associated with the bluegrass band Crandall Creek. And they've been setting aside a portion of proceeds from performances and recordings for charitable causes, and they set this scholarship up last year to honour the memory of Steve, bluegrass singer, a songwriter and band leader. He died from pancreatic cancer in 2020 at the age of 57. I'll put a link to the Bluegrass Today article, but I also put a link into more information about the scholarship as well, because that is a great thing. So the Steve Gulley Scholarship. Also, news of the New Mexico Banjo Camp, which is held on 2 weekends in April, 18th to 21st and 25th to 28th. Slightly different faculty each weekend. The first weekend, it's Bill Evans, Alan Mundy and Ned Luberecki. Second week is Bill Evans and Alan Mundy, but also Riley Borges on clawhammer and old time, and Kristen Scott Benson. So if you can get to New Mexico in April and you want to learn from some superb banjo players, then New Mexico Banjo Camp is the place to be. I will stick a link to that in the show notes as well. And then the final thing is Bill Amatnik, who is the bass player with David Grisman's quintet in the 70s. He's written a book called Discovering Tony Rice, and that is now out. They're shipping now this week, I believe. And yeah, so he played with the Grisman Quintet in the 70s, played with Tony, obviously knew Tony and all those people. But he's put together a book celebrating Tony and interviewing people. You know, I think there's already a great biography of Tony out there, Still Inside, that Caroline Wright and Tim Stafford did. But this is, just a bunch of brand new interviews with people. I'm really looking forward to reading it. And I'm going to talk to Bill about this on the podcast at some point. But I will stick a link in the show notes to Vineyard Press where you can get a copy of this. Be a really interesting one. Bill Amatnik's book Discovering Tony Rice is out now. That brings us on to The Grass is New, which is the bit where we talk about what music is out this week. And there's a new single from Ethan Sherman from his album Passages, which is due out any time now, I think. New track called Lake Air. I've been listening to Passages. I have a copy in advance because I'm going to chat to Ethan for the podcast very soon. I really like it. It's an instrumental album full of original material. It's very melodic. It's got a lovely sound to it. I'm looking forward to listening to it more and talking to him about it. But it's a really cool record and it's a really great track. I've put it on the playlist so you can go and have a listen. Also, Kyle Tuttle's album came out on Friday. I interviewed Kyle last week, as you know, if you've been sticking around for the past few weeks. And if not, go and listen to that. But Kyle's record is great. Really enjoy that. So that is now out, Labour of Lust, and he'll be touring for that. I think that's just kicked off now. And the final thing this week is the Bela Fleck Rhapsody in Blue record is out, which sort of pairs a recording of Rhapsody in Blue where Bela plays the piano part and the banjo with a reimagining of it with a bluegrass band, with sort of Bela's current touring lineup of the My Bluegrass Heart Band. And I heard that version live a couple of weeks ago in London, which is extraordinary. And I'm really looking forward to digging into the record a bit more because I haven't had a chance to do that yet. But yeah, so those three things: the new Ethan Sherman single, Kyle Tuttle's album, and the Bela Fleck Rhapsody in Blue record. They're all out. Go and listen to them. And the next bit is Scroll On Buddy, and this is stuff that I've spotted on social media that I thought you might be interested in. And one of them relates to that Bela Fleck record. Bela has posted something on his Facebook page and on his social media, a sort of article he's written in defence of Rhapsody in Blue, because it's the 100th anniversary of that piece, and there have been various things written about it, and I think Bela wanted to just explain how he feels about it. And it's a really interesting read, and I think if you haven't sort of heard of any of that stuff that's been going on the last couple of weeks around Rhapsody in Blue, it's an interesting thing. I think it's always interesting to talk about how we approach music, particularly old music, and the context it was made in versus the context we hear it in now. I think they're important discussions, and I think Bela's piece is just really eloquent and beautiful and personal and kind of thoughtful, and made me think about those things, and that's never a bad thing. So thank you for that, Bela. I'll stick a link to that in the show notes, and you can all have a read if you want to. Second thing is Jake Eddy has a new solo record on the way. I'm looking forward to hearing. It's not out yet. I don't know when it is out, but I spotted on his Instagram that that's kind of all recorded and mastered now, so I'm looking forward to hearing that at some point. Congratulations, Jake. I like solo guitar records. They're an interesting thing. I think there's something really special about a solo guitar record, so I'm looking forward to that. And the final thing is, which I saw on Paul Coates' Instagram. Paul is bass player of Hawktail and Punch Brothers. The Richard Davis Foundation Conference for Young Bassists, which is, they describe it as a series of events to train young bassists and their families on what it is to be a bass player while networking with experienced professionals. And that sounds like a really cool opportunity for young bass players. So I'll stick a link in the show notes to that as well. That's the Bela Fleck piece, the Jake Eddy solo record, and the Richard Davis Foundation Conference for Young Bassists. Links to that will all be in the show notes. And that just sort of leaves me to say what I've been listening to this week, and I've been listening to all sorts, really. For reasons that I will explain at a later date, I've been digging back and listening to the first Punch Brothers record that wasn't really the first Punch Brothers record. It was a Chris Thile solo thing, but it's basically Punch Brothers on it, called How to Grow a Woman from the Ground, which I love. Really like that record. I've been listening to that again. But also just listening to more like instrumental, new acoustic type stuff. I put a few sort of posts up on social media and various places asking for recommendations, and that threw up a huge amount of stuff, so I'm just sort of working through some of that. But yeah, sort of new acoustic, kind of all those different words for it, chambergrass, new acoustic, whatever you want to call it. That's what's been in my ears this week. Let me know what's been in yours. Anything I'm missing, any music I should know, whether it's new or old, do give me a shout. That is it for this week. Don't forget to go to bluegrassjamalong.com, where you can sign up for the mailing list, and I will email you occasionally with interesting stuff. There's also a complete list there of the interviews. There's a complete list there of all the backing tracks, which you can play, speed up, slow down without changing the pitch. All the chord charts for those. And yeah, you can get in touch with me there, and there's links to social platforms and all sorts of things if you're new to all this. But that is it. Have a great week. Thanks for listening, and happy picking. I'll see you next time. Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collings Guitars and Mandolins, making some of the finest guitars and mandolins in the world since the 1970s. Visit collingsguitars.com and find out why.